This was probably one of the most scared times I've been in my military career, over 5 years. So there I was, December 9th, 2013. I hopped off the bus in the Great Lakes. And keep in mind, I'm still active duty, so this seems like yesterday, but at the same time, it feels like forever ago. Hopped off the bus at Great Lakes and went through boot camp. You know, everything was good. I have some other stories that I'll save for later, but this story is specifically about the time that I almost lost my leg. Now, when I tell this story, lots of people think I'm exaggerating, lots of people think I'm lying or something, but I'm telling you, this is 100% accurate. This is what I was thinking, this is what I felt, and this is what happened to me. So, we were about 2 or 3 weeks from graduating boot camp, Division 807. We were in the Arleigh Burke, and in boot camp, if you don't know, you'll have these ships. And the ships are like barracks rooms, and they just call them ships to kind of just put you in the Navy mindset or Navy mood or whatever. But 2 or 3 weeks from graduating, and everybody was getting pink eye left and right. You know, the compartment, we try to keep it as clean as we can, but sometimes it's not because you have 90-something people in there just living, you know, doing their thing, and then it tends to get kind of dirty. So I had this little bump on my knee, you know, and I popped it. Everything was fine. Well, about 2 or 3 days later, I start feeling horrible. I start feeling sick to my stomach. I start getting a fever, and I knew I had a fever because I was sweating at night. Like, I literally could not sleep because of all the sweat. It was bad. And my body starts aching. And I start getting these other symptoms, like my knee was hurting, like the entire joint of my knee was hurting. And I also, like right here, I start getting, it was painful. Like right in your lymph nodes, in the crease of your legs, it was getting painful for me. So I thought I had 3 different things like ganging up on me. You know, 2 or 3 weeks from graduating, I was not about to go to medical because usually if you go to medical in boot camp, they will evaluate you and they'll set you back. They'll send you to a recruit convalescent unit, which is like a recovery unit, and you stay there until you get better, or they'll just roll you into another division. Well, I did not want that. I was like almost done with boot camp. I was like, I'm graduating with my division. So I was just, medical for me was just completely out of the question. And about 2 or 3 days later, we started marching to this thing called fire training. So fire training teaches you how to fight fires on board a ship. It teaches you how to battle different kind of fires, like electrical fires, smoke inhalations, things like that. And so we went to team trainer, and there I was with my division. Everybody was having fun, but I was sitting there. I wasn't talking to anybody. I had cold chills because I had a fever, and I was sweating in my NWUs, and I felt horrible. And I could tell I had a fever because everything felt cold to me. You know, everything was like just the smallest breeze I was shivering, freezing. And on the way back, I remember I stood up and my entire knee just starts throbbing. It hurt like crazy. And I was trying not to act like I'm hurting because the RDCs, they have a close eye on you. We had 3 of them. So as we start marching back, you know, I'm standing up and we have to all be at attention, and then we start marching back, and I was limping like it was crazy. It hurt so bad, I was just limping. And I remember one of my petty officers was kind of looking at me. He's like, "Alexander, you good?" I was like, "Yes, petty officer." Of course I said that, but I wasn't good. And he said, "All right." So we got back to the compartment, and by the time I got back to the compartment, I could barely even walk. I could barely even bend my leg. I was like straight legged the whole time. And I was like, man, my knee is hurting. So I unbloused my NWU from my boots, you know, and I rolled my sleeve up. I rolled my leg up. I looked at my knee. My knee was so swollen I couldn't get my trousers past them. And I hobbled over there to my RDC. I was like, petty officer. I was like, look at my knee. It hurts. And they looked at it and they were just in disbelief. They're like freaking out about it. They're like, yo, Burke, look at this, talking about my knee. And it was freaking me out because if they were getting freaked out, you know, I was panicking. I was like borderline pulling my hair out. So I was panicking. And he's like, you need to go to emergency medical right now. And So I was like, all right. So they wrote me a medical pass, emergency medical pass to walk to medical. Didn't give me crutches or anything. And it was probably 9 p.m. It was like 8 or 9 p.m. And the only people that are at medical at that time are emergency corpsmen, and they stand duty just in case anybody has an emergency. So I hobbled there. It was probably a third of a mile to medical. So I'm sitting there hobbling in the ice, you know, halfway slipping over everything. And I finally make it to medical. I probably look like a zombie coming in through the snow and everything. I knocked on the door, and the corpsman looked at me. I was just like, help, help. And I'm sure he was kind of panicking a little, because I was probably had tears in my eyes, you know, because my knee was hurting so bad. So he opens the door. He's like, come on in. And I lifted up my knee, and he said the same thing. He was like, oh my gosh, I have to take you to the emergency room. And they had a hospital. It was probably 2 miles off of base. And so they put me in the duty van, and they take me down to medical. And the whole time I'm just freaking out, because I thought I was gonna die or whatever. I was feeling horrible. I was sweating. My knee was swollen, and by this time, literally my leg was like, it didn't even look like my leg anymore. It was super swollen. And so we get to the hospital. They admit me right in, and the doctor sees me. He sees my knee, and he's just like, looks in disbelief. And I'm like, oh great, the doctor's panicking on me. He's like, all right, we'll take you right in. They put me in the hospital, and I fall asleep in the bed. The next morning I wake up, and I have probably 5 or 6 doctors and interns there just sitting there looking at my knee. And I was kind of spooked, because I didn't expect them to see him when I woke up. And they were just examining my knee. So they were just poking it and everything, like, I don't know. Well, shortly after that, we ran MRIs, and a day or so passed to wait to get to the MRI results back. And they told me, they said you either have a staph or MRSA, which is MRSA is a antibiotic resistant staph. It's called methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. I remember it from reading the pamphlet. He gave me the pamphlets. He's like, we think you have either one of these two. He said, to be honest, he said, you waited way too long, because remember, I was trying to just make it out of boot camp. He said, you waited way too long for this. He said, you probably had a fever for 2 or 3 days. I was like, yes, doctor, I did. He's like, you waited really long. So he said, the reason your lymph nodes are hurting between the crease of your legs is because it's probably in your lymphatic system, which if it gets in your lymphatic system, an infection, it carries it over your entire body. So at this point, my leg was swollen to probably normal and a half the size of my normal leg. So had my leg here, it was normal, and then this leg was just super swollen. And they drew a purple line around the infection, which is to tell them if the infection spreads or not. Well, a day passes, and they're waiting for the results of the MRI to see if it's staph or MRSA. And I wake up the next morning, and the infection had spread completely outside of the purple line, which was freaking me out even more. I think it was freaking the doctors out too. But they hooked me up to an IV, and they're like, we're gonna have to put these antibiotics in you. I said, all right. He said, we're not even gonna mess with the oral antibiotics, we'll just hook you straight up to the IV. I said, all right, sounds good. Well, at this time, a lady walks in, and I think she was a chaplain. And she's like, I'm not supposed to do this, but here's your remote control. You can watch TV, you can call your parents, you can get on Facebook. I was like, all right. I was like, all the worry from the staph and the MRSA was out of my head. For 6 or 7 weeks, I hadn't talked to my family, so it was just great to get on Facebook. And I was like typing away. I was like updating all my friends. I was like, yo, I'm in boot camp, okay, I got access to Facebook. I was calling my family, calling my girlfriend at the time, calling my mom, calling my dad. And I was excited. I was like, I called my mom. I was like, hey, Mom. I was like, I'm about to lose my leg. And I can't remember, she started crying or she was freaking out. And I explained the story to her. I said, I'm cooped in the hospital. My leg's swollen to double the size of a normal leg. And I couldn't send her any pictures or anything because I didn't have a cell phone, of course. But I wish I could have taken pictures of my leg. And about 2 or 3 days later, after drawing line after line on my leg, they would draw it the next morning, it would spread, and they would wash it off. Well, the end of the week, I had a purple line around my entire leg and around my ankle. That's how swollen it was. So it had spread throughout my entire body. And I had been going for MRIs and everything to check and see if the infection was in my joint. The doctor straight up told me, he said, if the infection is in your joint, we're gonna have to go in there and cut it out. It's gonna require surgery. Well, I was praying so hard. I was like, God, I was like, please don't let me lose my leg. And I don't know what my shipmates at the time were thinking. They probably thought I died or something. But to cut to the chase, I was in the hospital for a week and a half, and about the 8th or 9th day, my infection started to go down, luckily. At that point, I was still, typing away on Facebook, calling my parents and everything. But I got lucky, because if I would have waited another day for those antibiotics, then there's no telling what could have happened to me. Oh, by the way, it was MRSA. And MRSA is from, the bacteria can stay in people's noses or under people's fingernails. So I think when I popped the little bump on my knee, it was under my fingernails. So that is the story about how I almost lost my leg in boot camp. Now, most of my audience are thinking about going into boot camp or thinking about going to the military. I don't want this to scare you, because out of 90 something people, this happened to 2 of us. There was also another guy that he had MRSA. But anyways, this story is not as scary to you guys. It's not to keep you away from the military. Sitting here, I'm editing this video, and I just realized that my camera cut off like at the very, very end. So I just want to say thanks for watching, everybody. And before I was rudely unrecorded by the camera, I was gonna say I'm trying to find a balance between full-time job, few part-time jobs, YouTubing, and the gym, and keeping all my hobbies in my schedule. So if I don't post for a while, it means I'm working on a big project. I'm working on a big video project right now. Actually, it's a day in the life of an MA current version. So I have a previous version, but I'm working on an updated version. So that's just a hassle to get all the video files approved by the public affairs officer and my chief, and then everybody needs to approve it first before I release everything. So thanks for sticking with me. Hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks.